Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Yusuf Aram. It was an attack the world had long feared, the red line no one believed would actually be crossed. But just 48 hours before a new round of nuclear talks was set to begin between Washington and Tehran, Israel launched a direct strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. Tehran quickly vowed retaliation, accusing the White House of greenlighting the assault, an allegation firmly denied by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. But America's top diplomat warned any attack on U.S. forces or interests would bring consequences. The UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, had just declared Iran in breach of its non-proliferation obligations. In response, Tehran announced the activation of a new uranium enrichment facility, ratcheting up tensions even further. The sixth round of nuclear negotiations, scheduled this weekend in Oman, now hangs in the balance. Meanwhile, both Iran and Israel have declared states of emergency. Among the casualties, several Iranian nuclear scientists and high-ranking military officials, including the reported killing of the IRGC's top commander. As the world watches, one question looms. Are we now on the verge of a wider regional war? And how will Iran's key backers, Russia and China, respond? For more, joining me now from Dubai is Asif Shuja, the director of Geopo Consult, a geopolitical risk management consultancy firm. From Istanbul, Sean Michael Cox, a Global Policy Institute senior advisor. And from London, Tara Kangarloo, author of The Heartbeat of Iran and an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. Thanks for joining me. You know, when we planned this show, it was supposed to be about Iran nuclear talks, and now it looks like we're talking about war. Asif, I want to start with you. Are the nuclear talks now completely derailed?
Well, as it appears that the original schedule that was on Sunday, coming Sunday, when the parties were about to meet, that is supposed to be, halted, so far as I can guess. Although America, the US has not yet announced it, the hint has come from the Iranian side. But as far as the longer-term Iranian nuclear negotiation is concerned, we cannot yet conclude that it is yet over, because the war that is happening, the attack that has happened because of on the nuclear facilities from the Israel side, the primary reason is because of these talks, because Israel wants to halt this talk because some of the news that have come up about the alliances being given or planned to be given to Iran that was not acceptable to Israel. That was, the right to enrichment. So I think Sunday's talk may be halted, but in the longer term, one may guess that the resumption of the talk will happen, and primarily because other actors of the region being interested in a diplomatic solution, and also China and Russia, the key backers of Iran, who would like to have a diplomatic solution. So it's sort of pressure tactics that we can see, and we can simply not yet close completely the chapter of the diplomatic negotiations.
So, Sean, what does Netanyahu hope to achieve out of this? I mean, Asif touched upon derailing nuclear talks, but is that it? Does he want a war with Iran? Does he want to drag the U.S. in? Is this about distracting from Gaza? Is it a smorgasbord of issues that he has?
I think it's a combination of many different issues. We are able to see that Iran is in a quite weakened state vis-a-vis Israel, vis-a-vis other powers in the region. They have lost influence with the loss of their proxy forces, Hezbollah, with Hamas, with the Houthi rebels. And Netanyahu has an ally in Donald Trump and a very strong support from the Trump administration in his second term. So I think he's taking advantage of the situation to exercise some judgment that others would call into question, to try and further weaken Iran's capabilities with respect to nuclear weapons, energizing their nuclear program and whatnot. I don't think that this was done with the blessing necessarily of the Trump administration, but Netanyahu felt that he could take the lead on this, and he's taken action.
Okay. Tara, Sean says that it might not have the blessing of Trump, but I mean, the Americans are pretty quiet on this, except for saying that, hey, we had nothing to do with it, and please don't strike our forces or our interests in the region to Iran. Do you buy that?
I think if we look at the events of the last 24 hours, President Donald Trump was very adamant and very much looking forward to the Sunday talks, right? And before that, they pulled out essential staff from the Iraq embassy. So two contradictory events. And then Israel attacked, unlike anything we have really seen. We've had the attacks of last April and also the targeted attack against Hania in Tehran. And what happened today is something that we have not seen. It's unprecedented. And then this morning, Friday morning, President Donald Trump, very early, he came out and said, lots of people have been killed. And very bad things are going to happen. However, before there is nothing left, let's save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. And these are very strong words. He said, no more death, no more destruction, just do it before it is too late. And by that, he is talking about come to the deal, let's have a deal. So he seems to be steadfast and keen to still bring Iran to the table and have some form of a deal. Again, this is a president that has campaigned on not wanting to continue with America's forever wars. He's someone who has campaigned on wanting peace in the Middle East, around the world. And he has been very adamant in bringing a deal together with Iran over its nuclear program. But the big but is Israel. I mean, since the 90s, if you go back and listen to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, one thing stands consistent, and that is his attempt to sabotage any form of engagement with Iran through various administrations in the United States in the last few years. And now he is doing the same, just less than 48 hours from the nuclear talks on Sunday in Oman, these attacks took place. So was the United States aware? The Israelis say the Trump administration was told. However, the United States is keen to imply that they did not give Israel a green light.
So, Asif, a big strike, a surprise for the Iranians. They vowed retaliation. What are you expecting from Tehran right now? What are they thinking? How will they retaliate? How far are they willing to go?
The most notable part of this entire episode is the name of the operation. Israel, Mr. Netanyahu has named the Operation Rising Lion. If you could look at the flag of the Pahlavi dynasty before the current Islamic Republic of Iran, on the flag there was a lion, there was a rising sun. So there is a connotation in this series of strike that has just happened. And one can imply that it is indicating towards regime change. So if you have to read the attacks of Mr. Netanyahu, and he has also confirmed that until and unless this current regime is in place, this is adamant about enriching uranium. So his own agenda of stopping Iran from enriching uranium, that will not end. So if someone is there in the leadership of Tehran, he would be calculating the magnitude of this strike towards that end. So the retaliation will have to be matching that kind of anticipation. So one can expect a strong retaliation from Iranian side, but as I have always maintained that Iran will also look at the broader goal, and in that perspective, its own ambition of Iranian ambition of nuclear program, so far as it goes, that will have to be kept in mind by the leadership. So the leadership would be aware to maneuver in such a manner that the longer term goal of continuing with its enrichment that stays. So it will partly involve in diplomacy as well as in reciprocal strike that will happen, but it will not be a free flow strike, end all and meet all, that will not be there. It will be a calibrated strike from Iranian side to Israel, along with the diplomatic maneuvering that will also happen.
Sean, do you agree with Asif? Because, I mean, we've seen this before, the tit for tat between Iran and Israel, but it seems that Netanyahu really raised the stakes this time with the assets that he struck and also the military commanders that were hit in this most recent airstrike. I mean, will Iran just retaliate and want to close the book on this, or is this something that is going to be taken very seriously and escalated further if necessary?
I do believe that Iran is very much interested in retaliation, and we've seen that so far today they've sent over 100 drones to strike at Israel. But we've also seen in 2024 how ineffective their drone attacks against Israel's Iron Dome system has been, and that they couldn't accomplish anything. And there's nothing to indicate since last year that they've improved their capabilities or their technologies. What's more interesting for me is that we have yet to hear anything from Russia or China, potential sponsors of Iran and their continued escalation of conflict with Israel. If Iran is isolated and on its own, any type of retaliation, no matter how precise or how concentrated, will have a limited impact, will have a limited effect. If Russia or China steps in, however, that could change the chessboard in the Middle East.
Okay, so Tara, I want to go to the Iran nuclear program. Now, basically for the past 10 years, in a couple months, Iran will have a nuclear weapon. That's always been the narrative, but I mean, obviously they don't have a nuclear weapon at the moment, or at least that's what it seems like. And Israel is saying this was a preemptive strike, or sometimes you hear the word self-defense. Are you buying that, or was the means of this just to further weaken Iran while it's fallen down with what's happened in Syria and Lebanon?
Again, what I do believe and what I can see is Israel was very adamant in torpedoing and sabotaging the talks between the United States and Iran. Apparently, from what we have been hearing the last few weeks, these talks were going toward the right direction, right? And it's a question of having a deal that can actually contain Iran's nuclear program, bring the inspection, bring some level of transparency to Iran's nuclear program, or not have a deal, which quite frankly is what has led to this chaos and Iran's high level of potential in enriching uranium to a degree that can lead to a nuclear weapon, right? So let's put things in perspective. The President Trump in 2018 pulled out of the deal that was negotiated in 2015, right? And that emboldened Iran, especially the hardliners in Iran, to say, you know what, we are not going to comply with the JCPOA. Why should we? Sanctions have been placed back. Europeans don't really have that much power, so why should we comply with the rules and regulations and allow inspection? And that is really what has led to this level of acceleration in Iran's nuclear program and nuclear capability. So any deal will in ways contain that. And that was what was being discussed between the two parties, Steve Witkoff of the US and Iran's IRGC, mainly in Oman. Okay, so that is not happening at the moment. What is that going to lead us to? A no deal situation where Iran's nuclear program is once again being hidden in deeper layers under the ground. Every time something like this happens, Iran's nuclear program becomes more secretive and less access is given and granted to the IAEA. We heard from Rafael Grossi, head of IAEA. He said, I'm going to go to Iran to see what's going on, what has been happening. Also, if I may, I want to point out to the danger of attacking nuclear facilities. Natanz, one of the most important nuclear sites in Iran, was attacked twice. One of the biggest dangers there is what's going to happen for the generations to come, the environmental damage and the impact, the pollution, the nuclear pollution on not just Iran, but also the region. So this is very serious, and the more checks and controls you have on Iran's nuclear program, it's better for everyone versus no negotiation, no engagement, and Iran doing whatever it wants under closed doors and underneath the ground.
Asif, I want to ask you about the Muslim world. I mean, almost all the countries in the region that are closely following this tit-for-tat, Muslim countries. How are they viewing what's happening? I mean, obviously no love lost between them and Iran. None of them are really fans of Israel as well. What's going through their mind? What type of reaction are you expecting?
The Arab world, or all powers in the region, their primary mantra from the beginning has been the balance of power, right? So any particular power in the region who shows a hegemonic tendency is not in the overall or the broader interest of the region for the peace and stability. This region is very rich in oil and natural resources. And in order to go that into the market and reap the economic benefit, peace and stability is important. And if there is a balance of power, then that actually maintains that peace and stability. So the Arab world, primarily in the initial phase of this conflict, was against Iran, particularly because of this balance of power going awry, right? Now, what is happening here is Israel has been raising its head in the region. Of course, it's been articulating about the self-defense, but the actions that are being perpetrated are showing the tendency of those kind of tendencies where one power is becoming much more bigger than rest of them. So this is an era where all parties would like to have neutrality, a tendency of neutrality, so that they are not trapped in the cross of fire. And we have seen it in the past couple of years that the Arab world have been trying to have a negotiated settlement of the whole issue. They have been working in tandem with China also. And this kind of tendency, so moto the way Israel has struck on Iran, I don't think that any of the Arab world leaders would really watch for that kind of tendency, rather than going for a negotiated settlement, especially when the main backer of Israel, that is United States, and its leadership, that is Mr. Donald Trump, have been talking about a diplomatic solution. So this is something which is really not anticipated by the Arab leaders. But of course, in the due course, the most important action for them to maintain the neutrality, neither support Iran or Israel in this whole episode of attack and counterattack. And I think they will be successful in maintaining that neutrality. Those messages have been amply conveyed to both parties, to Israel and Iran. So it is for these two powers to settle that, settle it amongst themselves.
Sean, after the comments coming from Washington, especially with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying, we had nothing to do with this, don't touch us, we want to stay away, I think all eyes are now turned more to Russia and China. What type of statements are going to come from them? Are you expecting Beijing and Moscow to commit to Iran in the face of this type of aggression, or are you expecting them to keep their distance? Will this be a wait and see?
My expectation is that they will keep their distance. I cannot see them supporting Iran in terms of providing weapons, supplies, materials to fight against Israel, given Russia's current circumstances in its conflict with Ukraine, given the difficulties and challenges China is having with the tariff war against the Trump administration in the United States, just with the general situation in the world today. Neither one of these countries is interested in provoking Iran to take greater action that will lead to increased conflict in the Middle East. We need to have that region as stable as possible. So while I can see China and Russia issuing statements condemning Israel's preemptive attack, I cannot see them offering any kind of material support to Iran that will level the playing field, so to speak, and give Iran material support against Israel in this conflict.
Tara, I want to ask you about the Turks, a very influential country in the region as well, also a lot of influence in Syria, which is an important geography when you look at the map between Israel and Iran. What type of position are you expecting from them? How are you expecting them to, what type of strategy are you expecting from them in this second round of tensions between Israel and Iran?
I think very similar to what Sean said about Russia and China, and also Asif about the Arab countries, in particular to the Gulf countries. Turkey has, over the last few years, come out as one of the mediators, very powerful mediators in the region, and I think it too is going to continue to do that. I also think Turkey has its hand full with what's going on with the transatlantic relations, with NATO, the war in Ukraine, and quite frankly, I don't think it's going to come in the middle in support of Iran or Israel, except for any potential mediation role. That's my view on that. If I may just add to my colleagues the point about Iran's response and retaliation, I really want to emphasize on the point that Iran is at its weakest, right? And the main objective and goal of those in power in Iran is what? To maintain power and to stay in charge and not lose the grip that they have on the country. And I think their reaction and calculus very much will be based on that. It's an all-lose situation with them. They have nothing else to hold on to. And I think it's important to think about that as we anticipate their next step. They are in many ways very desperate for a deal. Otherwise, they can't hold on to the power that they have.
Asif, if things continue to escalate, how at risk is Syria right now? I mean, it's a very fragile country with a new administration. It's trying to get out of sanctions, get more financing, rebuild. What would an Israel-Iran war do to the future of Syria?
Right now, Syria is not the priority for Israel either, or for Iran. It's, what Iran has lost in terms of the fall of Bashar al-Assad in Syria. It will take a long time for Iran to regain that kind of a foothold in Syria. What Israel has been doing has been to preempt, any major attack or major foothold of those elements are in opposition to Israel. So in the short run, that will not be the focus for these two countries. So right now, I think it is just the direct, hit and countermeasures that they are currently talking about. But we know that the United States has recently come out in the support of, Syria. So that is also another major element that is going to play a role, because the current administration of the United States has been trying to have some kind of stability in the region, and it has been shown not only in Syria but also in Yemen, and his President Donald Trump's visit recently in the Arab region, in the Gulf region, has shown that those kind of measures were seriously taken where the things do not escalate. So, so far, Israel and Iran would not be focusing too much into Syria because, a lot plate is full for them to take the, a direct hit from each other.
So, Sean, what would an Israel-Iran war look like? I mean, we've seen what's happened in the region over the past decade in Syria and Iraq. Both countries destabilized, the rise of terror groups like Daesh. Is that what the future is for Iran, or will Israel take a pounding from that war? What can we expect?
In terms of actual warfare, it would be a warfare conducted by distance. Israel doesn't have the capacity to put boots on the ground. So what we could expect in a longer engagement, a more intensive engagement, is drone attacks, bombings from fighter aircraft, missile launches, and the like, to essentially destabilize the command and control structure of the Iranian government, the Iranian military, the Revolutionary Guards, to decimate the leadership. And I think, honestly, that there is some sort of wishful thinking that if the top level of Iranian administration, both military and political administration, is wiped out or severely weakened, that the people might rise up and attempt to overthrow them. So I can't foresee any real commitment of Israel trying to actually put soldiers on the ground. This will be a war of distance.
Mm-hmm. Asif, Sean, Tara, thank you for joining me. And that's all for this edition of Straight Talk with me, Yusuf Aram. If you got any comments, please share them with us on X at Straight Talk TRT. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find more exclusive content. Until next time, Take care and goodbye.